Hello, my name is Hasan Sorrells, and this is the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast bonus. There's no book reading usually on bonus episodes. These are interviews, rants, raves, insights, and other brief or long audio musings, and sometimes even conversations about leadership. Because listening to me talk about leadership for an open-ended amount of time is still better than reading and trying to understand yet another business book. Between 1860 and 1865, 750,000, mostly poor, mostly male, and mostly white people died collectively on the fields at Shiloh, Vicksburg, Antietam, and of course at Gettysburg. To honor their deaths and the deaths of all who have served in the U.S. military, we celebrate at the end of May with barbecues, parades, and for some of us, by placing flags on the graves of military personnel in national cemeteries. From the Library of Congress, via Wikipedia, we get the following information about this day. Quote, "The first national observance of Memorial Day occurred on May 30th, 1868. Then known as Decoration Day, the holiday was proclaimed by Commander-in-Chief John A. Logan of the Grand Army of the Republic to honor the Union soldiers who had died in the Civil War. This national observance was preceded by many local ones between the end of the Civil War and Logan's declaration. Many cities and people have claimed to be the first to observe it. However, in 2022, the National Cemetery Administration, a division of the Department of Veterans Affairs, credited Mary Ann Williams with originating, quote, the idea of strewing the graves of Civil War soldiers, Union and Confederate, with flowers," unquote. Official recognition as a holiday spread among the states, beginning with New York in 1873. By 1890, every Union state had adopted it. The World Wars turned it into a day of remembrance for all members of the U.S. military who fought and died in service. In 1971, Congress standardized the holiday as Memorial Day and changed its observance to the last Monday in May. Close quote. Memorial Day is not a day that has been celebrated in poetry and songs so much, but instead, in order to talk clearly and coherently about this day, we must read the words of the president who oversaw that great continental war where so many people died to preserve either a republic or to defend an institution. From President Abraham Lincoln, I will read now the Gettysburg Address, delivered on the Gettysburg battlefield on November 19th, and summarizing the meaning of the deaths of between 46,000 and 51,000 soldiers from both armies in the three-day battle in July of the same year, the costliest battle in U.S. history. Summarizing the whole thing in about 10 sentences, his words reverberate down to us on this Memorial Day. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus so far nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause, for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. And on this Memorial Day, my name is Hassan Sorrells, and that's it for me. Listen and subscribe to the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast on all the major podcast players that you listen to podcasts on, including iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and even Spotify. And please leave a 5-star review if you like the show. We need those reviews to grow, and it's the easiest way to make sure that this show gets into the ears of the leaders who need to hear it. And of course, tell all your friends. If you want to get started on the leadership path, HSCT Publishing's products and services can help your team do that. Check out our training webinars, coaching services, and more at leadershiptoolbox.us. We also have a video-based subscription service, that's software as a service, that can help your team become better at the individual level. 60 modules and over 100 hours of video and written content for you at LeadingKeys.com. That's LeadingKeys.com. We've also got books that will help you and your team grow. Pick up a copy today of My Boss Doesn't Care, 100 Essays on Disrupting Your Workplace by Disrupting Your Boss, and subscribe to the Little Red podcast I launched earlier this year with the same name as that Little Red book. My most recent book is 12 Rules for Leaders, the Foundation of Intentional Leadership. Co-written with contributions from Bradley Madigan, this is the book for right now that was written for leaders right now. Pick up a copy by heading over to 12rulesleadersbook.com/now. That's 12rulesleadersbook.com/now. You pay for shipping, and you'll get a copy of my second book as well. Finally, you can get all these books in paperback, hardcover, or as ebooks on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and any other place online you order books. Finally, HSCT Publishing is on YouTube. Like and subscribe to the video version of the Leadership Lessons for the Great Books podcast on the HSCT Publishing channel on YouTube. Just search for HSCT Publishing and hit the subscribe button. You'll get our weekly video updates, which is the video version of this podcast. And, of course, you're going to want to subscribe to my other podcast. That's right, I do more than one. The Hassan Sorrells Presents audio experience, where I talk more casually with a broader range of people about all matters that matter in the world today, from arts all the way to analytics. All right, that's it for me.